Hello, I need ambulance to 55A Boundary Road.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
Yeah, I think someone died. I'm not sure.
911, what is your emergency?
I think my daughter's been murdered.
These three cases had the most disturbing 911 calls. This 911 operator isn't taking the caller seriously. They think it might be a prank, but the woman on the other end can barely breathe, and she's in grave danger. Even though the caller is running out of air, she's able to get crucial information to the operator, desperate for them to believe her. When the police show up at the address she gave, there's no one inside, but they find a large bloodstain on the carpet and an empty handgun case. Then, another call comes in, this time from a man saying his wife Terry is missing, but she's not the only one. Her two daughters also vanished, without a trace.
It hit me like nothing ever before in my career.
He is a very dangerous, cold-blooded monster.
The vehicle should be occupied by David Larson, his wife, and two small children.
There's some slim chance that she could still be alive, and we weren't going to rest until we found her and her children safely.
The year is 1996. Terry Gendusa is celebrating her new marriage to David Larson. They seem to have a happy life together. Over the next few years, their family grows, and the couple welcomes two daughters, Amanda and Holly. But Terry soon learns that the real David isn't the kind, charming man she thought he was. He's controlling over his wife, and he picks fights with her often. He has a violent side, and he's even hit Terry's head against the door. Whenever he has an outburst, he tries to convince her that it's all her fault. She's the one who needs to do better, and then he won't be angry. Terry's scared of what he might do, and she tries as hard as she can to keep him happy, but even the smallest thing can set him off. One day, Terry's making dinner like usual, but when David sees a box of pasta on the counter, for some reason, it infuriates him, and he yells at her to put it away.
It's almost like evil overcame him. He actually pushed me. My little one started crying. I'm holding this infant, it's like 2 months old. And I cannot look at these children and think that this is the life that they're gonna have. It was at that point where I knew we were out of here.
Terry has been enduring David's abuse, blaming herself for how he treats her. But as soon as he shows that he's a danger to the kids, she fully realizes that he is the problem. Determined to protect her girls, she knows she has to end the marriage. Their divorce is finalized on January 31st, 2001, but it comes with bad news for Terry. The judge grants her and David joint custody. Even though he was abusive to Terry and she did all she could to get away, she still has to let him see Amanda and Holly.
On the day that the divorce was actually final, we walked out of the courtroom. He looked at me and he said, "You're gonna regret this."
Terry has escaped after years of abuse, but the danger is far from over. She worries for her kids every time she has to drop them off for visits with their father. David's threats are constantly in her mind, and it's hard for her to trust again. She finds comfort and support when she meets Nick Nikolai, and she begins to open up again. They start dating, and Nick shows her the love she deserves.
I loved her for how she related to the girls and who she was and the whole package.
They were a very happy family, and Nick embraced those children like they were his own. Everything was how it should be.
In 2003, Terry and Nick get married. It should be a time full of joy and celebration, but she soon finds that her ex-husband isn't ready to let her go.
Dave had said she was going to regret the day that she married Nick. He had told her one time that in his eyes and in the eyes of God, they were still married. So by her dating and remarrying, she was going against God's will.
He thought, I can't control her anymore. And I think that that's when he was really plotting to kill me.
On January 31st, 2004, the anniversary of Terry and David's divorce, Terry doesn't know that her worst fear will soon come true. She's going to pick up her kids, the now 4-year-old Holly and 6-year-old Amanda, after a visit at their dad's house. Her husband Nick offers to go with her, but she decides to go alone, fearing that bringing Nick might make things worse. David has a short temper, and Terry wants to do what she can to keep him from getting angry in front of the girls. Even though she has to see her abusive ex-husband, Terry is in good spirits, excited to see her daughters again and tell them the big news about their family.
It was a very happy morning. We learned the night before that Terry was pregnant, so we were on cloud 9.
Terry can't wait to tell her daughters that they're going to get another sibling. It's 10 a.m. when she walks up to David's house and knocks on the door. He answers, and it seems like he's in a better mood than usual too. He tells Terry the girls are playing inside. She steps in to go get them, but she doesn't see them anywhere. It feels like something is wrong. Suddenly, before Terry has a chance to move, everything goes dark.
I remember the feeling of being smashed in the head. The next thing I knew, I was face down on his living room floor. My whole body just felt like I was paralyzed.
Before she can process what's happening, David is wrapping duct tape around her, and Terry's instincts kick in.
My first thought was, where are the girls? I can't die. I have to help my girls. He was trying to suffocate me, and he had his hand over me. I remembered something that I saw in a movie, and it said, turn your head away, turn your head to the side, and I kept doing that, and he was losing his grip. And he was getting frustrated that I wasn't going down as easy as he wanted me to.
She fights as hard as she can, but she's losing blood quickly, and she can't escape. To her horror, David throws her inside a garbage can, and he starts packing snow and ice all around her. Then, she hears him wrapping the tape around the lid to trap her inside. He picks up the garbage can, puts it in the back of his truck, and covers it with a tarp.
I didn't know if he was gonna dump me in a woods somewhere. I don't know why he didn't just shoot me by now, unless he just really wanted me to suffer.
Terry's mind is racing. If he kills her and gets away with it, he might get sole custody of the girls. He could hurt them too once she's out of the picture. Terry quickly tries to figure out if there's anything she can do. She realizes David made a huge mistake. He didn't notice she still had her phone with her.
I've got my phone in my jacket pocket, and I reached down and I could feel the numbers, and I called 911.
The 911 operator is skeptical, thinking it might be a prank call, but it's a life or death situation, and Terry gives them crucial information like her ex-husband's name and address. However, she doesn't know where he's going to take her. She's able to make one more phone call, this time to her husband, Nick.
Not knowing how much battery she had left on her phone, I didn't want to talk to her too much in case that might be a tool that they could use to eventually find her. I told her I loved her and said goodbye, wondering if that would be the last time I would talk to her alive.
Panicked, Nick calls the police. He tells them that his wife is missing, but she's not the only one. Nick reveals that David had the children over for a scheduled visit. Terry went to pick them up afterwards, but now they've vanished, and it's a race against time to find the missing mother and her 2 daughters.
We already know that Terry's being held against her will. God only knows where those 2 children are at.
While police are heading to David Larson's address, Terry is trapped in a garbage can in the bed of his truck. If he drives off into the nearby woods, police might never find her. She pushes as hard as she can, and she's able to stick her hand outside. She waves frantically, hoping there's someone passing by who might see her. But before anyone else notices, David sees what she's doing in his rearview mirror, and the truck quickly comes to a stop. He gets out and walks back to Terry, warning her to quit fighting. After he threatens her, he turns around to get back in the truck, but Terry's phone suddenly starts ringing, and her heart sinks. He hears it and immediately grabs it from her.
Somebody called my phone. That was my only way of trying to save myself. And I have a baby inside of me, and I have 2 children to take care of. What am I gonna do now?
They continue to drive, and Terry has one last hope. She hears police sirens coming right towards them.
I heard the squad sirens, and I thought, this is over, they're gonna find me. But we kept going, and the sirens faded away into the distance. We passed each other up They weren't looking for the truck that I was on, they were going to his house. At that point, I felt totally helpless.
Terry doesn't know what David plans to do with her or her daughters, and he's taken away her phone, the one connection she had to people who might be able to help. In that moment, beaten, kidnapped, and hearing the sirens fade, Terry can't help but feel like she's about to lose everything. Meanwhile, the squad cars pull up to the house. They have no idea that they just drove past the woman who called 911, trapped in a garbage can. When they enter the house, they don't see anyone inside, but as they search for anything that could help, they notice the house is filled with pictures of her and David from their wedding. They also find an empty handgun case. They think David has the gun with him.
During the course of our search, we found women's sweatpants. They had duct tape wrapped around the ankles. The duct tape had a red substance consistent with blood. I knew we had maybe just a few hours. If he was going to keep her out in those elements, probably substantially less, and we weren't going to rest until we found her and her children safely.
There's more blood in the house, and investigators know Terry and her kids are in grave danger. They try to ping David and Terry's cell phones. They're able to ping David's phone in Milwaukee, about half an hour away from his home in Wind Lake, but then the signal disappears. They also find paperwork at the house that says David owns property in Milwaukee. There are 3 different addresses, and police look at each one. Investigators find Terry's car near one of the properties, and they think they might be getting close. Maybe David was trying to get rid of the car, but left evidence inside that could point them in the right direction. However, when they check inside the car, there's no sign of her or the kids. None of his properties in Milwaukee have any clues either, and they're getting desperate.
I didn't know what David Larson would do. Just feared that he might do something bad to all 3 of them. There was a complete sense of helplessness.
Back in David's truck, all Terry can think about is what her ex-husband is going to do to the girls. Suddenly, the truck comes to a stop, and she hears her daughters outside.
And the next thing I knew, I could feel the garbage can being picked up. I could hear the girls running and laughing, and I didn't want to call out to the girls because I knew, number one, they were so little, they wouldn't be able to do anything anyway, and number 2, I didn't want to traumatize them.
Even nearing death, Terry wants to do all she can to protect her daughters, and in that moment, she makes a heartbreaking decision not to say a word. Hearing them laughing and playing, she knows they haven't been hurt, but if they find out their dad attacked their mom, it would only put them more at risk. David might turn his anger on them. She has no idea where David has taken her, but then he sets the garbage can down and starts stacking things on top of it.
I was silent all this time because I wanted him to think that I was dead so he wouldn't shoot me. It was then I thought, I am in this frozen tomb. I'm gonna die.
Terry's losing hope, wondering if David is going to beat her more or just leave her to die. Then she hears a door close and everything goes quiet. He took the girls with him. She's now completely isolated, away from everyone she cares about. After waiting a few minutes to make sure he's gone, she starts yelling for help as loud as she can, and she tries to make her escape.
I was clawing and scraping and pushing. I got the lid off enough where I was getting some air in and I was breathing. I was praying, please get me out of here. Please keep my girl safe.
Terry is finally able to breathe a little more, but with her injuries and the frigid temperatures, she's fading fast. At the same time, police are searching everywhere they can for any leads. An Amber Alert is issued, and they're shocked to hear that David showed up to work like usual in Wheeling, Illinois, driving the same green truck from the Amber Alert that cops have been looking for.
It just struck me as odd that he would just show up to work as if nothing happened.
They bring David in for questioning right away. He tells police he's shocked to hear about Terry's disappearance, and he wants to do anything he can to help find her. Investigators play along, letting him think they believe his act. As David claims that Terry never showed up to pick up the girls, his lies pile up. He says he was home all morning, but detectives know from pinging his phone and finding Terry's car near one of his properties that he was half an hour away in Milwaukee.
I was armed with lots of information that he didn't know that I knew about. And I said, David, you could not have been at your house at 11:30 this morning. I had squads there at 11:03, and you weren't there. We kicked down the door looking for Terry because you know why? She called 911. I said, and remember when you told me that Terry never showed up? I know that's a lie, David, because we found Terry's bloody clothing in your home.
Now, David's getting nervous, fidgeting in his seat.
He started rubbing his pants. I looked because I didn't see this at first. He had dark stains. So as I'm calling him on his lies, and I said, in fact, you even have Terry's blood on your jeans.
David's act starts to falter. Suddenly, he changes his story. He admits that Terry did show up at his house that morning.
He had told me he is a good dad. He was putting the children's homework into their backpacks. So while his back was turned towards the front door, Terry was now in his home, unbeknownst to him.
He said, I turned around and Terry was standing behind me with a hammer raised over her head with her pants down around her ankles. But it's like, really?
With the pressure building, David's lies are becoming more outlandish by the minute. He tells police he was surprised that his ex-wife would sneak in and attack him out of nowhere, and he had to do what was necessary to defend himself.
Fearful for his life, he indicated, he reached next to a blue trash can, grabbed a baseball bat which happened to be there, and he swung it for dear life, striking Terry in the face. He indicated he grabbed duct tape, but he doesn't know why.
He's going to sit there and tell us that he can't remember, that it's all blur. This is the mother of his kids. He knows what he did to her.
The detectives don't believe a word of David's story of self-defense, but they have to keep him talking, hoping he'll slip up more. They question him for hours, but he won't reveal anything that will help them in their search.
He is a very dangerous individual, and in my view, a monster. Cold-blooded, doesn't give a care about anyone but himself.
Meanwhile, Terry's situation has gone from bad to worse. There's no heat, and she's still packed in with snow, trapped in the duct-taped garbage can. Her body temperature is dropping rapidly.
My hands hurt really bad. My feet were literally freezing. I kept trying to get my hand down there to cup my feet, and I couldn't.
Terry feels her eyelids start to drop. She desperately wants to rest, but she knows that would be a death sentence.
My head was still bleeding. There were a couple times when I was just so drained. I thought, I need to rest a little bit. Then right away I thought, I know I can't, because I know if I rest, that's going to be it. And I just remember doing anything and everything I could to keep myself awake and to try to get out.
Terry has lost too much energy to escape from the garbage can. She's losing hope that anyone will be able to find her. She doesn't even know where David left her, but there's one thing that keeps her going.
What about my kids? I'm here and I can't protect them. But that is the adrenaline that kept me going. That is what kept me alive.
Terry is barely hanging on, but she finds the will to fight through the thoughts of her daughters. At the same time, police are racing to find them. They're pushing David for answers about his ex-wife and children. And finally, with the help of the detectives calling him out on his lies, he starts to crack. He tells them that he dropped the kids off with the babysitter. They finally have a lead on the location of the girls, but with all of his lies already, they don't know what they'll find at the address he gives them. Following up on their only lead, police approach the house with caution. They find that, for once, David told the truth.
We found the girls safe at that address, so we knew the kids would be okay. And just happy it worked out the way it did.
It's a huge breakthrough. Not only are the girls both safe, but they might know something about what happened to their mom. But Amanda and Holly both say they didn't even see her that day. And even though David revealed where the kids were, he still has no interest in helping save their mom. Investigators confiscate his personal items, like his wallet and clothes. He has business cards in his wallet, and police start calling every phone number they can find. They're not having any luck, until they see one card that stops them in their tracks.
One of the investigators saw a card for a storage unit in Wheeling, Illinois.
And when we called them, we asked the guy working the counter, hey, does David Larson have a storage unit here? Yes, he does.
When was the last time he was there? Well, he was here yesterday.
Finally, police think they know where he took Terry. They race to the storage unit, knowing she's enduring frigid temperatures and serious untreated injuries, and there's not a second to waste.
I remember that when we first walked in, it was really, really dark and really cold. We started to call out, "Ma'am, are you there? It's the police, we're here to help you."
At first, there's no response. They use a pry bar to get inside the storage unit. There's boxes and plastic containers on the floor. But then, they see a garbage can with the lid duct taped closed.
I noticed a two-tone, like a black and like wood-colored baseball bat on the side, but I could see what appeared to be dried blood on the bat, and I just remember getting chills.
Meanwhile, Terry is drifting in and out of consciousness. She doesn't know how much longer she can hold on, but suddenly, she hears a sound. She's terrified, wondering if David is back to kill her.
I remember hearing some noise like somebody was coming back in. I panicked because I thought, oh my gosh, he's coming back. I don't know what he's gonna do. Is he gonna shoot me now because I'm still alive? What's he gonna do, dump the garbage can in the lake? I don't know.
Terry tries to stay calm, not making a sound in the hopes that he'll still think she's dead and leave her alone. But then she hears a voice that doesn't belong to her captor.
I heard somebody say, we're the paramedics. And I just felt such a sense of relief that I'm still alive and somebody's actually here.
We went over to the garbage can, took everything off the top of it, took the tape off of it, opened the lid, and that's when we looked down inside. I couldn't believe what I saw. It hit me like nothing ever before in my career. When we saw this poor woman inside the garbage can in a fetal position, I remember seeing a very large gash on her head. Her eyes were swollen shut. Her face was swollen, black and blue. It was horrific.
Beaten, tied up, and left for dead in the freezing trash can, miraculously, Terry is still clinging to life.
Just the fact that she's breathing and she's speaking and she's alive, I was just overwhelmed with happiness. But at the same time, she may not be out of the woods.
When he relayed the information they had found her, it was the best news, best phone call that I've ever received. But there was concern because it was a very cold winter night and being over a day that we didn't know what condition she was in.
Terry is rushed to the hospital. David hit her dozens of times with a baseball bat, and she's been trapped in snow and ice for nearly 27 hours. Her body temperature dropped below 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Still fighting for her own life, there's one thing she cares about much more.
The first thing I asked when I came to was, where are my kids?
When Terry is told her kids are safe and sound, and David Larson is in jail, she's hit with a wave of relief. Now, she knows the fight was worth it to make sure her daughters were safe. Despite the good news, Terry is faced with a tragic loss. Because of what she suffered, she had a miscarriage, losing the baby that she was supposed to be celebrating with her family.
It was devastating.
When my eyes were open and I first saw Nick, it was just, I can't believe I'm here. And it was sadness of what we had to go through after just being married, sadness after losing our baby together.
Terry does all she can to focus on the positives. She's still alive, and so are her two daughters. Because of frostbite, they have to amputate Terry's toes, but even that is almost a relief for her to hear.
The doctors thought at the time that they might have to amputate my legs and my arms below my elbows. I remember my dad saying to the doctor, do you really have to take her toes? I remember saying, Dad, what's most important is that I'm here and my kids are safe and my kids are here.
It was a great relief. It was very emotional. When they found her, the doctors estimated that she maybe had 1 hour before she would have died.
After a long recovery, Terry has to go to court to face David again, reliving the trauma of not only what she went through in the garbage can, but also of losing her unborn child. They question Terry on if she's had a miscarriage before, thinking it could have happened naturally, not because of what her ex-husband did.
He had a plea. I was very upset about that because I was told there were 100 pieces of physical evidence. There was so much overwhelming evidence that there was no reason to do that. But because the child I was carrying died, they wanted to look back into any record I ever had in my lifetime, if I ever had a miscarriage, and anything like that. I just felt I didn't feel very well served at the county level.
Terry still has to keep fighting to make sure she brings her abuser to justice. At the federal level, David Larson is sentenced to life in prison, and Terry and her family are finally safe.
At the sentencing, he was glaring at me. I didn't let it get to me because, again, it's, I'm out here, I'm living my life, and you're going away. You can't hurt me anymore.
Even behind bars, he still tries to scare Terry. He demands visits with his daughters, and he even attempts to escape. But Terry doesn't let his antics get to her, refusing to let him control her anymore.
I am not a victim. I'm a survivor. He is his own victim because he tried taking my life away and he just took his own life away from himself.
Terry also works to protect other survivors of domestic abuse. She tours colleges and gives talks to young students about red flags in an abusive partner, how to get out, and how to get help. Even though Terry left David after he started abusing her, the laws didn't give her enough protection. So today, she's fighting to give more rights to victims. Terry became a public face of the campaign to pass Marcy's Law in Wisconsin, which gives crime victims more protection at the state and county level. And in 2020, the bill passed. She's also enjoying life with her own family, and she even welcomed a baby boy with her husband, Nick. She's still very close with her daughters, who are both married themselves now. She fought to live so she could protect her family and give them a better future. And because of that, they know there's a life worth living.
Terry is very determined, a survivor, fighting against all odds and not giving up. I admire her for that.
It was staring death right in the face. When you go through something like that, it puts everything in a whole new perspective. I can still do most of the things that I did. I can still hold my kids.
I survived to be here for my kids, to talk about domestic violence, to save other people. I believe that my love for my children was a huge part of what kept me going and kept me fighting. I needed to be there for them, and I made it.
Hello, I need ambulance to 55A Boundary Road.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
Yeah, I think someone died. I'm not sure.
Why do you think someone's dying? Can you see their bodies?
Yeah, I saw someone kill my brother Sunday.
This is the voice of Kathy Shea. She was talking to the Sydney police after discovering her brother's entire family dead in their home. All but one.
Brenda Lynn was overseas when 5 members of her family were bludgeoned to death in their home.
After the murders, Brenda was immediately sent to live with Kathy and her husband, but the Sheas were hiding something. Susan Bridge, her school principal, was the first to notice something was wrong with Robert, Brenda's uncle.
He was so physically very close and speaking loudly, rapidly in Chinese. Brenda with her head bowed down, tears falling down. I had seen a side of Robert that was a potentially dangerous side.
Silenced, abused, and without anybody to turn to, Brenda Lynn was forced to stand by as her surrogate parents became the prime suspects in the murder of her entire family.
Robert Z still maintains his innocence, his wife supporting him in court today.
The crime he did not commit, he is a scapegoat.
Convinced her uncle couldn't do such a thing, it is only when her high school principal stepped in that Brenda revealed a long-kept secret crucial to the case, finally putting an end to the manhunt and bringing the one responsible for the murder of her family to justice.
I also commend her for her strength and her dignity and her courage.
Min and Lily led a seemingly idyllic life in the peaceful borough of Sydney. Their daughter, Brenda, describes Min as a hard-working yet compassionate father, and Lily as a loving and caring stay-at-home mother.
She was always with us at home. We'd cook together, or she'll take us to the park, and she spent a lot of time with us.
Together, they ran a successful news agency and raised 3 children, 15-year-old Brenda, 12-year-old Terry, and 9-year-old Henry.
All 3 of us had very similar interests. Sit in front of the TV and all play games, and we each have a controller and be like versing each other and wanting to win and all that. So it was good. It was very, very fun.
Also living in Epping were Min's sister, Kathy, and her husband, Robert. Despite a former career as a doctor in China, he wasn't successful at establishing a medical practice in Australia, eventually falling on his backup plan of opening a restaurant. When this endeavor also failed, Robert and Kathy moved to Epping to be closer to their family.
My aunt and uncle, they were the next best thing to my family. I felt like I knew my uncle, and he's this amazing guy.
But on July 18th, 2009, everything changed. When the family news agency failed to open that morning, Robert and Kathy went to check on the Lynn residence. What they discovered there was so terrifying, Kathy could barely describe it to the 000 operator.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
I'm not sure.
Why do you think someone's dying?
Because I'm supposed to be killed.
Why? Why?
I'm not sure, but maybe someone killed my brother's family. No.
Why do you think that?
I need someone to come quick.
We are coming. You need to stop screaming and tell me what the problem is.
Once the police arrived at the Lynn's home, one member of the family seemed to be missing from the scene. After attempting to reach Brenda's grandparents, who only spoke Chinese, the police started calling Brenda's neighbors and teachers until her school principal told them that Brenda wasn't even in the country at the time.
Immediately my phone started ringing from parents in the community and teachers who live in the community to ensure that I was aware that it was one of our families, and I will never forget that day.
In July 2009, Min and Lily's 15-year-old daughter Brenda was leaving Australia on a school trip to New Caledonia. Like a typical teenager, Brenda acted distantly toward her dad in order to impress her classmates when Min dropped her off at the airport.
As a teenager, and I was trying to be cool, so my dad stood next to me and sort of stood there awkwardly. Sort of looked at him and I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything to him. And then we all left. And that's the last time I saw him.
Unbeknownst to her, this was something she would tragically come to regret.
I didn't get to say thank you for being an amazing father. I didn't get to tell him I loved him. Thank you for doing everything for us. I'll never be able to either.
While in New Caledonia, Brenda learned about the cruel fate her entire family suffered in the most unbearable way.
One of my friends sent over a link to a news article and it had a photo of my house. And I go, okay, that's my house. It was such a surreal sort of feeling. I don't know, I was just in so much shock. I didn't believe it. I thought, that's not possible. It's someone else.
With nobody else to make arrangements for her, Kathy and Susan Bridge stepped in and immediately repatriated Brenda to Australia.
My first thought was Brenda. I knew she was overseas and I wanted to make sure that she was safe.
We got to Sydney Airport and the police met us there, and there was my aunt and uncle. As soon as I saw my aunt, she gave this massive hug. She was crying as well. That's when I knew it was all real.
The scene that Kathy and Robert Shea reported to the police was gruesome, displaying an amount of violence rarely seen before in Sydney.
Brenda's father Min, her mother Lily, Auntie Irene and brothers Henry and Terry were bludgeoned to death in their beds last month.
As the police kicked off their investigation, several strange details started to emerge.
It doesn't bear the hallmarks of a typical home invasion in that we haven't established that anything was stolen from the home.
Adding to the complexity of the scene, a single set of bloody imprints were found tracking throughout the house. Out of all the rooms, Brenda's bedroom was the only one left entirely untouched.
The killers are still on the loose, but Brenda says she's not scared. She believes her parents were the intended target.
My theory is that if they were after the whole family, they would have waited until I came back from New Caledonia.
After a risk assessment unit cleared Robert and Kathy from their list of suspects due to the lack of evidence, they became the legal guardians of Brenda and took over Min's business in Epping.
Minlin's news agency is still in the family, now being run by his sister and brother-in-law. They paid their own tribute, putting up this memorial yesterday. They're also looking after their 16-year-old niece. Brenda Lynn is now in year 11. She recently spoke with a local newspaper journalist.
I still think they're alive. I think sometime soon everything will just come crashing down to me and I'll finally realise. I don't think I still do.
All over Sydney and across the nation at large, people were in grievance. While the investigators were hard at work, every media outlet in Australia turned their eyes toward the funeral proceedings.
Brenda Lynn buried her entire family. She recalls the horror of their brutal murder with maturity well beyond her 15 years, but reality is yet to set in.
Only 2 weeks after the tragedy, Brenda was put in front of the cameras and asked to deliver a message to her deceased family members.
I miss my mom and dad. I miss Henry and Terry, as well as my auntie Irene. What am I going to do now? I really don't think I can smile like the way I did before.
Susan Bridge and the students of the Cheltenham Girls' High School were shocked to see the visibly shaken Brenda speak so thoroughly in front of the thousands of people in attendance.
It was distressing to watch. I've been to funerals before. I've never seen such raw grief in my life. But there was no room in that grief for a 15-year-old girl.
It was mere moments after the address that Principal Bridge noticed something completely out of place. She witnessed Uncle Robert, Brenda's surrogate father, acting abusively towards the young girl.
He was so physically very close and speaking loudly, rapidly in Chinese. Brenda with her head bowed down, tears falling down. It was clear he was trying to get her to agree to something.
What did you say to your husband that night when you went home?
I think I've spent all day with a murderer.
With the media frenzy surrounding the crime finally settling down, Principal Susan Bridge took matters into her own hands.
I just got a gut feeling that he was a dangerous person, and I was very worried for Brenda's safety. I did share those with the police.
In case Brenda would need legal advice, Susan Bridge's second move was to introduce Brenda to Patrick Parkinson, a successful criminal attorney who agreed that something suspicious was going on with Uncle Robert.
I think she didn't believe could have been guilty for a very, very long time. And I'm sure that was an important mechanism for her to cope with it all. How could one believe that your uncle has murdered the rest of your family?
Acting on Bridge and Parkinson's suspicions, the police visited the Shias. They acted as if they were only there to talk, but while Robert and Kathy were distracted by the investigators, one police officer sneaked into their kitchen. Under the Surveillance Devices Act of 2007, the police were legally allowed to install multiple recording devices in their home.
They put some secret cameras into the house, and there was evidence of him taking that shoebox and cutting that up and flushing it down the toilet.
From day one, evidence had pointed to the murderer being someone close to the Lins. Based on his movement, the killer must have had knowledge of the house's layout and knew that Brenda was not home at the time. The single set of bloody imprints they had found around the house proved to be a pair of size 11 men's Asics sneakers, the same exact model Robert was inadvertently caught disposing of in front of his wife on the footage captured by the police. Armed with this new piece of evidence, the police took Robert into custody and tore his entire house apart in a desperate attempt to find further clues. Under a drawer in his garage, they found a single smear of dried blood.
According to the best expertise that the prosecution could bring forward, seemed to indicate the mixed DNA of 4 of the victims.
On May 5, 2011, Robert was charged and sent to prison, but securing an effective trial for him would prove to be a much more difficult matter. Between the 91 bloodstains waiting for DNA analysis and the thousands of hours of footage captured inside Robert's home, Parkinson and the New South Wales police took over 3 years to prepare their case against him.
But police say they are making progress with their investigation into the deaths of 5 members of the Lin family.
On May 9, 2014, the trial began, but after weeks of deliberation, the jury struggled to reach a verdict. Their main point of contention was that, even though there were multiple pieces of evidence pointing at Robert, the man had no real motive to carry on such an act. Present at the trial under an alias to protect her anonymity, Brenda couldn't believe the amount of incriminating material the police had accumulated against her uncle.
Realising that he might be involved was something that was life-changing, something that was an absolute shock, completely eye-opening.
In the midst of the trial, Brenda requested a moment alone with the prosecution. Finally, she listened to her gut instinct and, for the first time, revealed her secret. A secret that was so far-reaching that it put the entire procedure on hold.
Brenda revealed something that she didn't think was relevant to the murder trial, but which I thought was. I think the trial judge had no choice but to start the trial all over again.
Did your uncle, Robert Z., sexually abuse you?
Yes, he did. That's something that I'm very private about, and it's something that I don't feel comfortable talking about as well. So I hope people can respect that.
Even though she desired to keep the details hidden from the public, Brenda didn't shy away from exposing her uncle's shameless behavior in a written statement to the court during his second trial later that same year.
At the times after the murders, and as a teenager myself, I was very insecure. He knew that he read it very well.
But circumstances weren't on her side. On September 23rd, the jury was discharged when the court's judge suffered from a critical health issue. Then, a third trial was attempted in 2015, but the jury failed to reach a conclusion. Finally, after 5 years of legal proceedings, a fourth trial was instigated, and the jury finally came to a verdict when the motives of the murders had been clearly laid out to them. Robert's actions seemed to have been fueled by his depraved sexual obsession for Brenda, jealousy over Min's successful business, and overall hatred of the Lins.
You are sentenced to imprisonment for life.
Robert Z was standing just 7 or so metres from the judge when she told him
he'd be spending the rest of his life in jail. His face remained blank, not a hint of emotion, just as it has been throughout the trial.
In the aftermath of the conviction, Kathy staunchly defended her husband, refusing to believe that Robert could have been capable of such a heinous crime.
His wife Kathy continues to stand by the man who killed her brother and his family.
He is innocent. We are fighting for him.
I was very hurt and disappointed by that because I told the truth. I hope one day she can realise that she's better off not with him.
Brenda spent the rest of her teenage years living with her grandparents, who, after the murders, attempted to get Brenda into their care, only to discover that Robert had already finished filling up the needed paperwork mere days after the tragedy.
The Lynn grandparents, choking back tears, they said at last, justice for a loving family.
They provided her with a loving home where she went on to finish high school, attend university, and get a job and a driver's license, all the milestones of a normal, healthy young adult life. Without ignoring her past, she looks forward to the future, hoping that one day she too will be able to make a difference in the lives of others, as so many people did in hers since she came forward as a survivor.
I'm sure that I would like to do something to help other people in the future. I want to be able to show kindness to people, to others, the way they've shown kindness to me.
Despite what happened, Brenda continues to look up to her family, often reminiscing about what Min and Lily would have wished for her if they were still around to guide her. But truthfully, even in death, they are still the most significant influence in her life.
I like to be someone they're proud of. I think just doing the things they would have wanted me to do and would have liked me to have done.
As an adult, Brenda continues to share her story. In 2021, she co-founded the Survivor Hub, a victim advocacy unit that provides resources to support victims of sexual assault. Recently, she finished her PhD in law at the University of Sydney and reunited with Susan Bridge to celebrate the occasion. For the now retired school principal, this accomplishment truly expresses the victory of love and compassion over hatred and violence.
I learnt as much from Brenda as anything I may have given her.
What did you learn from Brenda?
I was always worried that she wouldn't remember how to love, that would be something that was also taken from her. I needn't have worried. She taught me that love is the most important thing.
Tell us what happened that day.
I went in there to the pool.
This is Ted Hoover, the prime suspect in the disappearance of teenager Allie Kemp, who was last seen at the local pool where she works as a lifeguard. Hoover is currently under investigation after a witness said they saw a similar-looking man at the pool at the time of the crime.
I hit on her. Some small talk. I don't remember exactly what I said. You said she was strangled, and I don't know why.
Everything points to this suspect. He fits the description, drives the right car, and he even admits to being at the pool that day. But after hours of interrogation, Ted Hoover is released. But Allie Kemp's father, Roger, was sure they had the right suspect.
I knew we had the guy. Not only did he really look like the person that we were looking for, but he had a history of abusing women.
But the truth is, Ted Hoover is not his real name. On June 18, 2002, Allie's father went looking for his missing daughter at the community pool. At 5:30 p.m., he found something disturbing under a tarp.
I saw something, and I lifted the tarp off, and it was Allie.
911, what is your emergency?
I think my daughter's been murdered.
Does it appear that she's breathing?
I can't tell.
Okay, stay on the phone.
Oh, Allie, honey, Allie, stay with us. Stay with us. Are you there?
There is a monster loose in our community, and we need to get him off the streets.
He had started to fight with Allie, but I was going to finish it.
The year is 2002. 19-year-old Allie Kemp is home for the summer after returning from college. Her parents live in a suburb called Leawood, considered one of the safest places in the state of Kansas, where no one locks their door and nothing bad ever happens. The college student got a summer job as a lifeguard at the neighborhood swimming pool where she works with her brother. On June 18th, 2002, Allie is expected for her shift.
It was an overcast day. It wasn't particularly warm. Not a day you really go to the pool. I went to work. Allie later went to the pool. And I got home about 5:20. My son Tyler was on the phone with his mother and said that he had gone down to the pool to relieve Allie of her duties. Couldn't find Allie.
Right away, Allie's father, Roger, drives down to the pool in a hurry to go look for his daughter. The first thing he notices, his daughter's car is still in the parking lot.
I looked in the pool, looked in the deep end, looked at the bottom. I looked around the grounds. I went over to the baby pool, looked behind it.
Roger notices his daughter's property was left on the counter. Her purse, her cell phone, her car keys, but there's no trace of her.
I went into the pump room and couldn't see very well. And I looked around, I walked to the back of the pump room, I looked behind the pumps. And I was walking out and I turned around and saw a leg sticking out from under a tarp. And I lifted the tarp off, and it was Allie.
Lay with 911, what is your emergency?
My daughter's not moving, and she's laying in the pool house.
How old is she?
She's 19. Allie.
There's clear at 1729.
Oh, Allie. Oh, Allie. Hi, honey. Honey. Allie, stay with us. Stay with us. Are you there? She's not moving. She's not moving. Allie, honey. Allie. Allie, come to us.
Does it appear that she's breathing?
I can't tell.
Roger is in shock. He doesn't know if his daughter is breathing or not, but he's doing everything he can to keep her alive.
When I found her, and I rolled her over, I couldn't believe how brutal it was.
The first responders find the 19-year-old lying naked on the concrete floor. Barely holding on to life, Allie is rushed to the hospital, where she is joined by her family.
Allie, most beautiful, innocent, sweetest thing, did absolutely nothing to deserve this.
The day Allie was born, it was the happiest and I felt the luckiest day of my life. She was just a wonderful daughter.
She was so kind and so sweet. She adored her parents.
The college student is every parent's dream, kind and loving. She has perfect grades and excels in everything she tries.
Her high school year, she was involved in like 19 student activities. She was in an honor society. She had all these things going for her. We'd felt for years that Allie was going to make a difference in this world.
As doctors do everything they can to save the young woman's life, at the crime scene, investigators are already focused on finding a suspect. But first, they have to make sense of the evidence.
That pump room was full of a lot of equipment and things. Everything was in disarray. Her flip-flops, which she was wearing, were in different parts of the pump room. There was also blood spatter. It was very evident that Allie had tried to fight her attacker. She had several injuries to her fingers. She had blunt force trauma to her face and the back of her head.
We don't know by just looking at the blood stains. You know, is it all victims' blood? Could it be the suspect's blood?
After running DNA tests on the blood, the results show it belongs to a male. It appears investigators now have the DNA from the attacker. However, after running the profile into their database, they find no match from anyone with a criminal record. Their only option now is to find potential witnesses. Back at the hospital, Roger is waiting outside the operating room, uncertain if his daughter will survive.
All her friends and all the people from all over the city were showing up at the hospital. We were just waiting and hoping, and just thought some chance she'd pull through. The doctor and a nurse came out, and the doctor worked on her, and they tried and said she was gone.
Allie Kemp died on June 18th, 2002. She was only 19 years old.
Our hearts were broken beyond what anyone could ever imagine. It's just the most awful feeling in the whole world. We went from the hospital to the funeral home, and they took Allie to the morgue. You're dealing with something you don't want to be dealing with, but I went to the morgue and I spent the night at the morgue with Allie, and I wasn't going to let her be alone.
The news of the teenager's death spreads quickly across the community. Everyone is in shock.
The entrance of Foxborough Pool crowded with friends and neighbors paying their respects. Flowers and mementos pay tribute to a young life come to a violent end. When we were out there covering the story, people just kept showing up.
And I hope they find him, the guy that did it, and I hope she didn't suffer long.
I have 2 kids, a little boy and a little girl, It makes, it's hard to explain, how a mother feels.
Everybody knew Allie. She was so popular. They just couldn't believe what had happened. There is a monster loose in our community, and we need to get him off the streets. The first time I met Roger Kemp, his face was just the portrait of pain.
The first week, just one long, horrendous day. Your mind runs everywhere. Who was it? How could this happen? Who could have done something like this? How you're going to ever get this predator tracked down? You have a choice whether you can stay in bed and pull the covers over your head, or you get out and try to make something happen. I had to keep moving. Well, I wanted this guy, and I had made a determination that he had started to fight with Allie, but I was going to finish it.
I remember thinking Roger Kemp was an amazing father because he was so driven to find who did this to his daughter. He was such a warrior and a champion for Allie.
Roger Kemp makes public appearances on TV, doing everything he can to raise awareness for what happened to his daughter and hopefully help police catch the killer. Investigators have now switched into high gear as it went from an assault case to now a violent murder. They first have to eliminate the suspects closest to Allie.
In any type of case like this, you always have to eliminate family, close friends, boyfriends. That's got to be done right away.
One name on top of that list is Allie's boyfriend, Phil. After looking through her cell phone records, police find Allie had called her boyfriend at 2:50 p.m., just over 2 hours before she was found murdered. They learned that Phil, her boyfriend of 5 years, also works at the same pool and had covered the shift before Allie. When they bring him in for questioning, the young man is visibly distraught, yet cooperative.
He's the last person we know that saw Allie alive. He had told us when interviewed that he had gone to another pool after he had left Allie. He was asked for his DNA, and he did provide that.
He was really grief-stricken. He was in shock by what had occurred.
I'd say it's difficult most to deal with the way that Allie had to die.
Phil was a great guy. Roger will tell you, when they asked, is there any chance Phil could be involved, he said no way. Phil was 19 years old. They'd been dating for about 5 years. He loved Allie.
After running the DNA tests, police find that Allie's boyfriend is not a match. He also told police that he was working at another pool at that time, which proved to be true. But while Phil's name is cleared, he does provide authorities with some valuable information. According to Phil, his girlfriend had shared her concerns that she was being stalked.
She just said that she was a little worried about people. Like when she was by herself, she just said she was worried about people being around there and watching her.
She had told her boyfriend that sometimes the people that mowed the grass and did the lawn and garden stuff made her uncomfortable because they stared at her. Her boyfriend came to the pool and she asked him to stay because the lawn and garden people were there and she didn't feel comfortable.
Phil had stayed longer after his shift, so Allie would feel safe. But around 2:15 p.m., she told him he could go because the workers were gone. When police meet with the 2 lawn car workers who were there that day, they learned that a tan 1980s Ford pickup had circled the parking lot at least 3 or 4 times before taking off. But that's not all. The day before the attack, they saw a man lurking around the pool.
3 witnesses said he was hiding in the bushes near the pool with a camera.
And appeared to be looking at the girls that were there sunbathing.
As the mystery behind the teenager's death begins to uncover, police get their biggest break yet. One of the calls the young lifeguard had made that day was to a friend of hers. She had asked her to keep her company at the pool since she was now alone. What police find out is that her friend might have unknowingly crossed paths with the killer.
At 3:15, her friend shows up at the pool.
She had pulled down into the parking lot, didn't want to get out of her car. So she was just honking her horn to get Allie to come out from inside the little attendant table inside the pool. She noticed a male subject standing there. No, it wasn't anybody that she had described as ever having seen before. White male, probably in his 30s, a little bit of hair, but basically balding.
He was carrying a pail and nodded to her and waved. She got scared because she thought it was Allie's boss, and she was going to get Allie in trouble for honking the horn and all that stuff. So she left.
Right away, the friend is brought to the police station to meet with a sketch artist. The picture is then shared with every news outlet in the city, along with the description of the Ford pickup truck.
She was brutally murdered yesterday afternoon. We have a description of that individual, and you will be caught.
More than 20 Metro Squad detectives are on the case. They're not sure if the man in the bushes and the one seen at the pool the day of the murder are the same person.
Armed with a stack of more than 1,000 copies of the sketch police released today, Allie Kemp's friends are spending hours putting them up all over town. Since her murder 1 week ago, calls have been coming into the hotline, but now that these sketches are out in the public eye, the phone just keeps ringing.
Within the first couple of days, police receive over 400 leads. Everyone in the community is paying attention to this case and doing their best to find the killer, but the tips are not producing any results. It's now July 2002. Roger Kemp and his family offer a reward for any information that would lead to the killer.
Tips Hotline has a $1,000 reward for information that leads to a conviction. But Roger Kemp felt like we need more. We need to get these tips coming in. And so he just kept raising more and more money. And eventually he raised $50,000.
Roger Kemp is doing everything he can to keep his daughter's case in the public eye.
We don't want to be off just a little bit because in your minds you think, oh, well, it might not be it. You know, just because it's off just a hair. Please call in those leads.
We just needed to catch this guy. We did not want him to victimize anyone else.
It doesn't take long that the search goes national. As the sketch is shared with every major news outlet in the country, the Kansas State Police receive calls about possible suspects from every part of the country, but with very little success.
Who knows where the guy could have gone by this point?
February 2003, it's been over 8 months since Allie's murder, and the killer is still on the loose, with no solid leads until a familiar name comes up, James Strader.
About 3 or 4 months into the investigation, we got an initial lead on a James Strader who looked a lot like the composite.
James Strader is wanted in Missouri and Kansas for brutal rapes, and in Leawood, Kansas for questioning about the Allie Kemp murder.
Not only did he really look like the person that we were looking for, but he had a history of abusing women, and he became a real person of interest because he took off running.
We need to get him into custody.
To question him in connection with Allie's murder, and to get this 3-time convicted felon behind bars.
Breaking news comes when James Strader is arrested after a routine police stop in a Utah town. Their suspect is finally in custody.
Your driver's license and registration, please.
James Strader was pulled over in Richfield last night.
You didn't get gas in Salina?
His arrest came after he allegedly skipped out on paying for gas at this station.
I can see the pump from here, and he was the only car out there, and he just took off.
She called police, and a few minutes later, Strader pulled into this service station in Richfield. Richfield police were waiting for him.
Detective Langer, who has been waiting for this moment, flies down himself to meet Strader.
I went out with the detectives from the sheriff's office and spoke with Strader, and he said he didn't do it.
The detective has heard Strader deny his involvement in Allie's murder before, but he doesn't care. All he's after is Strader's DNA. Right away, Langer sends the sample to the lab for testing. But when the results come back, the news is devastating. James Strader is not Allie's killer.
It wasn't him. We were totally shocked.
I could not believe my ears. Everybody was just absolutely certain.
Well, I thought that I will never get this high or this low again. You drop to the depths when you don't catch who you're looking for.
Roger, throughout the investigation, was extremely afraid that the case would go cold.
I'd met families that had terrible tragedies and lost their loved ones, and they turned it into a cold case, and it was just, it just breaks your heart. My heart was already broken. It's just a place you don't want to be.
In homicide investigations, time is the enemy. Studies show that if a murder case remains unsolved for more than 6 months, the likelihood of it ever being solved drops by nearly 50%. With each passing day, the chances grow exponentially, leaving countless families in the dark, desperate for justice, much like hundreds and thousands of unsolved murder cases across the world. It's June 18, 2003, 1 year to the day after his daughter's murder. Roger is doing everything he can to not lose hope, but the amount of new leads has grown thin. It's becoming clear that Allie's case is slowly being forgotten by the public.
I was driving down the interstate and I saw a billboard. You have all these eyes that are looking at the billboard, you know, thousands a day. And I thought, well, why not? Why couldn't we do this on a billboard?
That's the only time anybody's ever come in and say, I want billboards to try to help find the person who killed my daughter.
It was a groundbreaking idea. At the time, that kind of thing wasn't being done.
To be honest with you, I didn't think it was going to work.
That people have driven by him in some cases, and they finally make that phone call and they say, you know, we think maybe you better look at this guy. And it just, you can't put a value on that.
I remember just feeling so sad passing those billboards on the highway and knowing he was still out there. But everyone was so hopeful that someone driving by would see it and it would just jog their memory just a little bit that they saw something.
As soon as the billboard is put up, the leads start pouring in again. This time, faster than before. It doesn't take long for police to receive a tip they've all been waiting for. Multiple people call in about a man named Ted Hoover, who not only matches the description and drives an old tan pickup truck, but also owns a pool company. One of the callers give police Hoover's address.
I went up to the house and knocked on the door. The maroon Ford pickup was sitting in the driveway. I went up and knocked on the door, and Mr. Hoover answered the door. Couldn't say exactly what he was doing on the day of Allie's homicide. Because of that, I asked him if he would be willing to provide us with some DNA.
But Hoover hesitates. He tells detectives he needs to speak to his lawyer before agreeing to give a DNA sample.
Obviously, anytime somebody refuses to give you DNA, it makes you a little bit suspicious.
At first, Ted Hoover is just a lead like every other. But while police are waiting for a call from Hoover's lawyer, they learn that their suspect has fled the state.
We tried our best to locate Ted Hoover throughout the United States, but he was not in any databases anywhere in the country. Basically, we couldn't find him.
Investigators learn about a possible girlfriend of Ted Hoover who has recently moved to Connecticut. And when they contact the local post office, they confirm that a male is also living at her address under the name Benjamin Appleby. It appears their suspect has changed his name. They call the authorities in Connecticut and ask to put this Benjamin Appleby under surveillance.
They called back and said, the Teddy Hoover name, when we ran that through, we've got some warrants here in Connecticut for indecent exposure on a Teddy Hoover that are several years old. It looks like it's probably going to be the same Teddy Hoover guy that you guys were looking at.
The Connecticut State Police agreed to arrest on the indecent exposure warrant.
Appleby was arrested at this small home on a major thoroughfare in rural Litchfield County by Connecticut State Police on an outstanding warrant. He's wanted here for risk of injury to a minor, disorderly conduct, and public indecency. Appleby was taken for questioning to the State Police barracks.
It's November 8th, 2004. More than 2 years after the murder of Allie Kemp, when finally, detectives have their suspect in custody. They are convinced they have the right man, but without the DNA sample, nothing is certain.
Mr. Appleby didn't want to give the DNA to the Connecticut detective. And he said, what will happen if I don't do it, if I don't consent to this? And they said, we'll get it one way or the other. He eventually consented, and they got his DNA.
But investigators aren't going to wait to get the test results back. What they want is a confession. When Benjamin Appleby walks into the interrogation room, where detectives from the Kansas State Police are waiting for him, they've staged the room to intimidate him.
We took a wall-sized poster and we put his picture right in the middle. And then around his picture, we put everything we could think of with arrows pointing down to his picture as to why he's the focus of our investigation.
They brought him up to us, and he sat down, and his eyes got real big, And he looked around and he kept looking at that link chart with this picture in the middle. And he said, you know, I kind of lied to you. And we said, really? About what? Well, I was at that pool. I just remember.
Their plan works far better than they had expected.
Can you go ahead and tell us what you remember and what happened that day?
I went in there to the pool with the intentions of looking at the pool to get to business.
On June 18th, 2002, Ted Hoover, also known as Benjamin Appleby, drove into the parking lot of the Leawood local pool. He had seen Allie Kemp from afar and decided to go hit on her. Because of his pool company uniform, he was convinced he wouldn't look suspicious. As Allie walked into the pump room, Hoover made his move.
And I hit on her. Some small talk. I don't remember exactly what I said. Just didn't, wasn't interested in anything I had to say. And I was blocking the doorway.
As Allie becomes suspicious of him, she tries to go around him and leave. This is when he grabbed her.
I tried to hit on her. I touched her. Not hard, nothing. Either on the shoulder or the hip or something. She pushed me back, and she punched me. Lost it. I took her clothes off with the intention of trying to have sex with her. I don't know how many times I hit her. I hit her back. I hit her in the face, I think.
It was probably about 10 minutes into the interrogation with him. And my partner, John Dickey, said, "You killed her, didn't you?" And he said, "Yeah, I did."
You said she was strangled. I know I strangled her. I don't know what I strangled her with. And I don't know why I did it.
After Allie fell unconscious, he covered her body with a blue tarp found nearby, and he left her for dead.
I just laid it on her. I didn't want anybody to find her like that. But I didn't think she was dead.
They said, have a confession. And I heard all about the details, and I knew we had the guy. Killed her so he wouldn't have a witness and he wouldn't go to jail again.
In November of 2005, Ted Hoover stands trial for the rape and first-degree murder of Allie Kemp. And on December 5th, after just 2 hours of deliberation, the verdict is in.
On the first charge of capital murder, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
Benjamin Appleby, guilty. The words Allie Kemp's friends and family have waited for ever since the woman's father found her beaten and strangled at the neighborhood pool where she worked that summer in 2002.
We have justice. Just want him put away and never want him back out on the streets again.
Benjamin Appleby, once known as Ted Hoover, is sentenced to 50 years to life without parole until 2054. Although it will never bring back his daughter, Roger Kemp finally can put his beloved Allie to rest.
Roger was such a devoted father. We may never solve this crime without Roger, to be honest with you. Roger just never gave up.
He became the spokesperson for every father out there.
My wife and I realized that we never wanted this to happen to another little girl again. We wanted to do a self-defense class for girls. We call it Take Defense, the Allie Kemp Educational Foundation. We had our first class in the basement of Leawood City Hall. We had 12 people in it. We've had 68,000 people go through our classes now. And we have women that have contacted us and said, your program saved my life. I don't care how many people we teach, but if we teach 100,000 and we save one life, it's worth it.
Roger Kemp has also worked with law enforcement on a nationwide billboard campaign featuring the faces of wanted criminals. It has brought new hope for cases that have never been solved to support the families of those forgotten victims.
I have never met a person like Roger Kemp. The President of the United States invited him to the White House and recognized him during a ceremony.
Roger Kemp lived every father's worst nightmare when his daughter Allie was taken at a young age. Through immeasurable pain and grief, Roger devoted his energy to building a safer world for future generations. His foundation has provided women of all ages with valuable self-defense training, and his billboard campaign to post the faces of wanted criminals has led to multiple arrests, including the conviction of Allie's killer. the United States honors Roger Kemp for his unwavering efforts to ensure the safety of his fellow citizens.
This certainly is not the way we wanted Allie to make a difference in the world. But, you know, I'm very, very proud of her, and I hope she would like what we're doing. Hope she'd be proud, and I think she would be.
They couldn't save Allie, but they have saved many women. And that's Allie's legacy.